In a few minutes, you'll understand why the men who try the hardest to be liked are usually the ones people trust the least when money is on the table. And why a small number of rare men walk into the same room, say less, explain less, smile less, and somehow leave with the respect, the leverage, and the client. Most men still believe the old lie that if you're patient enough, available enough, and nice enough, people will eventually recognize your value. They won't. What they usually recognize is how easy you are to lean on without ever committing to you. You've felt it, even if you never said it out loud. You send the detailed proposal, you answer fast, you make yourself flexible, you soften your tone so you don't sound pushy, and then the message comes back cold and polished. Thanks so much, we're exploring a few options right now. And suddenly your chest tightens because you already know what that means, even before you put your phone down. You were useful, not chosen. That's the part most men hate admitting. It's not that you're invisible, it's worse. They see you. They just don't fear losing access to you, and that changes everything. So you do what most men do when they feel their position slipping. You type a longer message. You explain your process more clearly. You offer extra value. You throw in a small discount, maybe an added revision, maybe happy to jump on a quick call anytime. You call it professionalism. They read it as hunger. And hunger, when it leaks through a man, does something ugly to his presence. It makes his words feel heavier than they should. It makes every sentence sound like it's asking for approval. It makes him nod too much in meetings, laugh half a second too early, and explain one more point after the client already mentally left the room. He thinks he's building trust. He's actually showing that the deal matters to him more than his own position does. That is the hidden psychological truth most men never learn. People do not assign value based only on what you offer. They assign value based on how much they believe they must earn access to you. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this long before business gurus started selling politeness as strategy. He knew that power does not come from being harmless. It comes from shaping perception, controlling distance, and never making your dependence obvious. Picture this. You're on a Zoom call with a potential client. You've been waiting all week for it, maybe longer, and 5 minutes before the meeting starts, you check your camera twice, smooth your shirt, sit up straighter, and tell yourself to stay relaxed even though your jaw is tight. They join late, not apologizing, coffee in hand, glancing at another screen while you greet them with too much warmth, and from the first 10 seconds, the hierarchy is already built. You start talking faster than usual. You hear it, but you can't stop it. They interrupt once, then again, and each time you smile like it's fine, nod like you're flexible, and say, "Yeah, absolutely, totally," before they've even finished the thought. You're trying to keep the energy positive. They're learning how quickly you adjust. This is where most men betray themselves. Not in the big moment, in the tiny ones. In the fake smile after being cut off. In the over-explanation after a simple question. In the way they rush to remove tension because silence makes them nervous. Every one of those small reactions tells the other person the same thing. This man wants this more than I do. And once that truth becomes visible, the negotiation is no longer about your service. It becomes about your need. That's why the nicest guy in the market is often the easiest guy to delay, compare, and replace. He keeps showing his cards before the game even starts. He thinks kindness will make people feel safe choosing him, but what it often does is make them feel safe postponing him. Safe taking his ideas to someone else. Safe saying, "We'll circle back," because deep down they know he'll still be there, still polite, still available, still hoping. There's a quiet humiliation in that kind of hope. You don't even show it publicly. You just feel it alone. You stare at a thread that says, "Scene 2:14 p.m." You reopen the proposal to make sure nothing looked wrong. You tell yourself they're probably just busy, but there's that ugly little thought underneath it all. If I were the one they really wanted, would they be moving this slowly? No, they wouldn't. When someone sees you as the obvious choice, confusion disappears. Delays shrink. Energy changes. Questions get sharper. Their tone becomes more careful because now they're not deciding whether they like you. They're deciding whether they can secure you. That is the reversal most men never create because they were taught the wrong religion. They were taught to be agreeable instead of difficult to dismiss, helpful instead of high value, warm instead of stable. And the worst part is that society rewards this lie just enough to keep you trapped in it. People will praise your attitude while they pass your name to the bottom of the list. You've seen it happen, maybe in a sales call, maybe in freelance work, maybe in your own business. The client asks for your thoughts before signing anything, and you, trying to be generous, give them the strategy for free. You sketch the angle, the campaign, the fixes, the structure. They say, "This is great, super helpful," and they mean it. It is helpful. Helpful enough to shop around with. Then, 3 days later, you're scrolling online and there it is. Another company using your exact framing, your exact ideas, your exact structure, just cleaned up with someone else's branding on top. And now you're sitting there, still pretending to be mature about it, telling yourself this is just part of business, while something much more honest is burning underneath. I gave away authority for the chance to look nice. Machiavelli would have laughed at that mistake, not because he worshipped cruelty, but because he understood human nature with terrifying precision. He knew people often take as much as they can from the man who shows no boundary, then respect the man who forces a boundary to exist. Not because the second man is louder, because he teaches others where the edge is. Most men think power looks aggressive. It doesn't. Often it looks still. It looks like not filling every silence. It looks like not answering every email within 4 minutes just to prove you care. It looks like refusing to educate someone into buying from you when they have not yet earned your full attention. It looks like the ability to remain unchanged while the other person tests whether you will bend. And they will test you, constantly. Not always consciously, but constantly. A prospect says, "Can you just send over a few more examples?" even though you already sent enough to make a decision. Another asks, "Could you lower the rate a bit? We're a small team," while wearing a watch that costs more than your monthly rent. Another says, "We're also talking to a few people," then pauses to see how that lands on you. That pause is not empty. It's a probe. They want to see whether competition makes you sharper or smaller. Most men get smaller. You can watch it happen in real time. His shoulders drop just a little. His voice gets friendlier, thinner, more accommodating. He starts performing reassurance. "Of course, totally understand. Happy to be flexible. I'd love to make this work." The client doesn't even need to be manipulative. Human beings naturally move toward the side that feels more solid. If one person is trying to be chosen and the other person feels chosen already, the power tilts. This is why being nice without structure becomes self-erasure. You don't even notice it at first because it wears the costume of professionalism. It feels clean. It feels mature. It feels like you're being the bigger man. But underneath that smooth language, you are slowly teaching people that your time is cheap, your attention is abundant, and your standards can be negotiated by pressure. And once people learn that lesson from you, they don't unlearn it. Think about the last time someone said, We just need a little more time. Maybe you replied within minutes, "No worries at all, take your time." Sounds harmless, sounds classy. But what were you really communicating? That there is no cost to stalling you, no friction, no consequence, no risk of losing your interest. In other words, no urgency attached to you as a man or as a provider. A high-value presence doesn't beg for movement. It creates a quiet awareness that delay has a price. That doesn't mean becoming rude. It means understanding something men avoid because it makes them uncomfortable. Respect is not born from your generosity alone. It is born from the controlled perception that you can walk away without emotional collapse. And if you cannot project that, people feel it, the way animals smell blood in water. Not dramatically, not even consciously, just enough to keep browsing. There's a scene you probably know too well. You're in a coffee shop or at your desk, laptop open, reading a prospect's message. "We love your work. Budget is a little tight. Could you help us out?" You lean back, stare at the ceiling for a second, already annoyed, but then another thought slips in right behind it. Maybe if I say no, they'll disappear. So you start negotiating against yourself before they even ask twice. You tell yourself it's temporary, strategic. Better to get the client in the door and prove yourself later.
But later rarely comes for the man who enters discounted. He spends the whole relationship trying to climb back to the level he should have started from. He becomes the guy who says yes fast, apologizes fast, fixes scope creep quietly, and secretly resents the very people he trained to treat him lightly. That resentment is poison. Slow poison. Because now every interaction has two layers, the one you show and the one you swallow. Out loud you say, "Absolutely, I can make that adjustment." Inside, you feel your face go hot. Out loud you say, "No problem at all." Inside, you know it is a problem. You know you just abandoned yourself again to keep the possibility of approval alive. That is not kindness. That is fear wearing a clean shirt. Machiavelli wrote for a world of princes, states, and shifting loyalties, but the psychology did not die with palaces. It followed us into boardrooms, sales calls, direct messages, agency deals, consulting proposals, and startup partnerships. His lesson was never be evil. It was much colder than that. Understand what people respond to beneath what they claim to admire. People say they want honesty, but they chase certainty. They say they appreciate kindness, but they commit to conviction. They say they want collaboration, but they follow strength. Not cartoon strength, not loud man strength, composed strength. The kind that doesn't rush to make itself digestible. So here is the first shift, and it matters more than any line you'll ever say in a negotiation. Stop asking, through your behavior, to be chosen. Start making the other person feel the weight of choosing poorly. That's where control begins. Not in your words, but in the frame. Not in the pitch, but in the atmosphere. The moment you stop reacting to every signal like a man trying not to lose his chance, the room changes. Your silence gets heavier. Your questions get cleaner. Your value stops sounding like a plea and starts sounding like a standard. And once that standard becomes visible, everything that used to feel random starts making sense. Why they delayed you, why they tested you, why they extracted from you without committing, why the nicer you were, the less serious they became. They were not responding to your goodness, they were responding to your lack of edge. In the next few minutes, that edge is exactly what changes. Not so you can become cold for the sake of ego, but so you can stop being the man people use while they keep looking elsewhere. The problem was never that you cared too much. The problem was that you let them see it before they earned it. Look closer at what actually happens when a man confuses niceness with strategy, because the damage never starts with one dramatic betrayal. It starts with a pattern so ordinary, it almost looks harmless. A client asks a vague question. Instead of answering the question, he gives the whole architecture. A prospect goes quiet for 4 days. Instead of matching the silence, he sends a just checking in message wrapped in forced lightness. A lead says, "We're still deciding," and instead of leaning back, he leans forward. That lean is everything. Imagine him at his desk at 11:48 p.m., lamp on, room quiet, rereading a draft email for the 4th time. He removes anything that sounds too firm because he doesn't want to come off difficult. He adds, "Totally understand," twice. He changes, "Here are the terms," to, "Here's what I was thinking, open to whatever feels best for you." Then he hits send and stares at the screen for half a second too long, like maybe this one landed right. That half second tells the whole story. His mood is now tied to their response. He won't say that, of course. Men almost never say it cleanly. They say they're just being professional. They say they're focused on relationships. But what they are really doing is outsourcing their internal stability to people who have not invested enough to deserve that power.
And the body always gives it away first. The rushed reply, the eager tone, the extra paragraph no one asked for. The way he answers objections before the other person fully raises them. The laugh that arrives too quickly after a dry comment. It is astonishing how often men tell on themselves without ever using a single needy word. Here's a scene. A creative director jumps on a call with a founder. The founder is distracted, camera off, multitasking. The creative director keeps the energy high anyway, keeps presenting, keeps serving, keeps filling the silence because dead air feels dangerous. At one point, the founder says, "Yeah, we've spoken to some other people who feel more aligned with our brand voice," and then goes quiet. That quiet is a blade. It is waiting to see whether the man on the other side will hold shape or start bleeding. He bleeds. He says, "Totally fair, and honestly, I can adapt to whatever direction you need." Then spends the next 3 minutes proving he can be anything. More playful, more premium, more masculine, more minimal, more aggressive, more soft. He's trying to show range. What he actually shows is that his center can be moved by pressure. He becomes water in a room that respects stone. And that is why many talented men lose to less talented men who know how to frame value. Not because the market is fair, not because clients are wise, because human beings are hierarchy-reading creatures. We read certainty. We read boundaries. We read whether a man treats his own time like a scarce asset or a public utility. Most decisions happen there, long before anyone admits it. Machiavelli would call this a matter of appearances, but not in the shallow sense people misunderstand. He knew appearances govern behavior because perception becomes political reality. In your world, that means the client doesn't need to fully analyze you. They just need to feel whether engaging with you raises or lowers your own posture. If it lowers it, you are already negotiating uphill. Think about the man who says yes to every meeting time, every last-minute shift, every quick favor. He thinks he's being easy to work with. Maybe sometimes he is, but often he is teaching people that access to him comes cheap. He moves his evening around because a prospect suddenly has 20 minutes. He skips the gym, pushes dinner back, opens the laptop again, smiles on camera, and calls that dedication. Then the prospect cancels 7 minutes before the call with a dry, "Something came up, let's reschedule." And the worst part is not the cancellation. It is the little wave of embarrassment that rises in his chest Because he knows, deep down, he made himself available like a man waiting to be picked. That embarrassment changes you. It makes you try harder next time, not less. Because now you want to erase the feeling. So you become even more polished, even more responsive, even more accommodating, hoping that perfect behavior will finally produce respect. But respect is not a tip they hand to the service-minded. It's a structural response to perceived consequence. No consequence, no urgency. No urgency, no respect. This is why men who are so nice often end up speaking with a strange, suppressed bitterness after a few years in business. They say things like, "People just don't value quality anymore," or "Clients are crazy these days." And yes, sometimes clients are chaotic and opportunistic, but that is only half the story. The other half is harder to face. You trained them. You trained them the first time you rewarded indecision with more access. You trained them the first time you answered a Sunday message instantly. You trained them when they asked for a proposal before a real qualification conversation, and you delivered it anyway. You trained them when they hinted at other options, and you responded with reassurance instead of standards.
Like a king who gives away land to avoid war, you called it peace while shrinking your own territory. And the tragedy is that most of this comes from a decent instinct. You want to be good to work with. You don't want to become arrogant, cold, or manipulative. Fair. But immature niceness has nothing to do with virtue. It is usually conflict avoidance dressed up as morality. The man who cannot tolerate the possibility of someone disliking him is not kind. He is dependent. That line stings because it's true. Watch how that dependence appears outside business, too. A woman takes hours to reply, and he sends a second text with a joke to relieve the tension. A friend keeps interrupting him in a group setting, and he grins through it, then says his point softer the second time. A boss piles on extra work Friday afternoon, and he hears himself say, "Sure, I can handle it," even though his stomach sinks the moment the words leave his mouth. Different settings, same structure. He reacts to pressure by preserving harmony at his own expense. That is why this problem is deeper than closing clients. It is about how you occupy space when another person tests whether your comfort can be purchased with their approval. And the test is often tiny. That's what makes it dangerous. A prospect says, "Can you just mock up one idea before we commit?" Small test. A client starts sending voice notes instead of respecting scope. Small test. Someone says, "We move pretty fast around here," hoping you'll start chasing to prove you can keep up. Small test. These are not always malicious. Sometimes they are simply information-gathering moments. They want to know what kind of man is on the other side. Can he hold tension? Can he keep form? Or will he immediately trade structure for acceptance? Most men trade. Then they wonder why the relationship feels slippery from day one. There's a powerful silence that weak men never use because they are terrified of what might happen inside it.
It is the silence after a bad ask. The silence after someone names a lower budget than the one they know your work deserves. The silence after, "We're comparing a few options." The silence after, "Can you include more deliverables at the same rate?" In those moments, weak men rush to soften the air. Strong men let the air do its work. Because silence reveals who is uncomfortable with misalignment. And the person most uncomfortable usually loses position first. Machiavelli knew this in another form. He understood that men rush to exploit softness when softness carries no threat, no edge, no cost. Again, this does not mean cruelty. It means structure. It means the disciplined ability to let discomfort exist without immediately paying to make it disappear. See the difference?
One man hears an objection and starts selling harder. Another hears an objection and gets quieter, more precise, more selective. One widens access, the other narrows focus. One says, "I can make this work." The other makes them feel that working with him requires alignment, not persuasion. That second man is rare because he has already accepted something the first man hasn't. Not every client deserves to be converted. Some deserve to be disqualified. Some deserve to leave. Some deserve to experience, maybe for the first time that week, a professional who doesn't melt when money is waved in front of him. And this is where the identity split happens. Because a man who needs the deal cannot negotiate like a man who can lose it. I'm not talking about his bank account. I'm talking about his nervous system. Two men can have the same amount of money and carry completely different energy. One treats every lead like oxygen. The other treats every lead like a possibility. Same industry, same market, same offer, different posture. Clients can feel that difference in under 5 minutes. There's another scene worth staring at because it happens every day. A consultant gets a message from a prospect. "We love your stuff. We'd like to start with something small first, and then maybe expand." He already knows something small really means we want maximum access with minimum commitment. He feels that truth instantly. But he doesn't trust himself enough to hold it. So he overrides his own read, smiles at the screen like that changes anything, and says yes. 3 weeks later, he is in a relationship built on compromise, underpricing, vague expectations, and constant low-grade annoyance. He keeps thinking, once they see the value, it'll expand. Sometimes it does. Usually it doesn't. Why? Because people anchor on the version of you that you introduce. If you enter as the man who bends to get in, they rarely reclassify you as the man who sets terms. First impressions are wet cement. Most men step into them with shaky feet. And here is the brutal twist. The nicer you are while betraying yourself, the less sympathy you get later. Because you participated in your own devaluation so politely that everyone assumes you meant to. That is a hard sentence. Sit with it. You participated in your own devaluation so politely that everyone assumed you meant to. No wonder you feel invisible sometimes. You were there, but not fully. You edited your edge out of the room before anyone could react to it. This is why so many men secretly admire the guy who says less and closes more. On the surface, they call him arrogant, aloof, maybe even difficult. But beneath that criticism is envy, because he seems untouched by the desperation they spend all day hiding. He doesn't over-answer. He doesn't chase after being ignored. He doesn't hand out certainty to uncertain people. He looks like a man whose approval also matters. That last part changes everything. When the client senses that your approval matters too, the interaction becomes reciprocal. When only their approval matters, you are not in a negotiation. You are in an audition.
And auditions create strange behavior. Men start performing value instead of embodying it. They become hyper-attentive to tone, microsignals, response time, every flicker of interest. A delayed reply ruins their lunch. A short message makes them reread the whole thread. A competitor mention rattles them for hours. Meanwhile, the other side is just browsing, living, comparing, moving through the day, unaware that they are occupying such expensive real estate in another man's head. That is the true cost of being nice as a strategy. It doesn't just cost you clients. It costs you internal command. Your thoughts become rented space. Machiavelli would recognize the weakness immediately.
A ruler who waits emotionally on the reactions of others is already half defeated. Not because feelings are forbidden, but because exposed dependence invites manipulation, even when manipulation was never the original plan. The moment another person senses that you cannot absorb uncertainty without leaking position, they become more casual with you, more experimental, more willing to test, more willing to look elsewhere while keeping you warm. This is exactly why some prospects keep you circling without deciding. You feel safe to postpone. You feel safe to revisit. You feel safe to compare. There is no danger in losing you because you keep advertising that you will remain open. That must end, not with speeches, not with fake alpha posturing, not with some cartoon transformation where you become cold and theatrical. It ends with a subtler shift. You stop trying to remove all friction. You stop using speed as proof of worth. You stop rewarding ambiguity with more labor. You stop pouring certainty into people who have not shown enough seriousness to carry it. And once you stop, something almost uncomfortable happens. You feel the old urge to chase. You feel the impulse in your fingers when the message goes unanswered. You feel the tension when a prospect says they need time.
You feel the old need to rescue the moment with explanation. That urge is the chain. Most men obey it instantly because they can't stand the temporary helplessness of not controlling perception. But the man who learns to endure that moment becomes different. He learns that not every silence is a crisis. Not every objection requires a defense. Not every delay means he should lower his standard to keep the game alive. He learns to sit still without mentally kneeling. And in that stillness, something begins to harden back into place. A spine. Once a man gets that spine back, the world starts reading him differently before he even changes his offer. His words get shorter, but somehow heavier. His kindness remains, but it is no longer leaking from fear. His attention stops feeling like free water and starts feeling like something that can actually be lost. That is the beginning of authority. Not loudness, not dominance theater. The quiet shift from "please choose me" to "let's see if this fits." That sentence alone can save a career if it becomes real enough in your body. Because the game changes the moment you stop approaching every prospect like a starving man at a banquet. Starving men grab, they hover, they say yes too fast. They keep smiling even when something smells wrong. They tell themselves they're just being smart, just building rapport, just staying positive, while their instinct is screaming that the frame is off. Men with internal command do something much rarer. They notice the smell and trust it. A client asks for too much before commitment. He notices. A prospect speaks vaguely about budget, timeline, and outcomes while demanding clarity from him. He notices. Someone keeps name-dropping other providers to create pressure. He notices. And because he notices without panicking, he can respond from judgment instead of hunger. That is what Machiavelli would want you to understand. Not that you must become ruthless for the sake of vanity, but that men who cannot read power in ordinary interactions remain trapped inside other people's agendas. Niccolò Machiavelli studied courts and rulers because he knew human beings do not stop playing status games just because they wear nicer clothes and use softer language. The kingdom changed shape. The psychology didn't. Today, the throne is a contract. The battlefield is a call. The weapons are timing, attention, certainty, and emotional self-command. The prince who cannot govern himself gets governed by everyone around him. You've lived that already. You probably remember a call where you knew, in the first few minutes, that the person on the other side was casually testing boundaries. Maybe they arrived late and expected you to reset the mood. Maybe they asked broad strategic questions before ever discussing scope. Maybe they kept saying partnership while negotiating like a buyer at a flea market. And instead of honoring the discomfort, you overrode it because the opportunity looked attractive. That is how men walk willingly into rooms that have already priced them beneath themselves. Then comes the self-betrayal scene, the subtle one, the one no one sees. You end the call. The room is quiet. You let out a breath you didn't know you were holding. Your face stays neutral for a second, then drops. You stand up, pace once, maybe twice, and feel that familiar mixture of irritation and shame, because you know exactly where you folded. Not all at once, in pieces. In the extra explanation, in the fake laugh, in the willingness to keep selling after the disrespect became obvious. You didn't lose the client yet, but something in you knows you already paid too much just to remain in consideration. That moment matters because it is where most men make the wrong vow. They do not promise to become sharper. They promise to become even more impressive. Better deck, better proposal, better persuasion, more polish.
They still think the problem is insufficient performance, when the real problem is unstable positioning. No amount of polish can save a man who keeps kneeling in clean shoes. And this is where the awakening has to become concrete, not motivational, concrete. You stop answering ambiguity with extra labor. You stop proving worth to people who are still entertaining the possibility of using you as comparison material. You stop treating interest like commitment. You stop giving away the thinking they should pay to access. And most importantly, you stop trying to win people by making yourself emotionally convenient. Because convenience is seductive. It gets you quick praise. So easy to work with. Super responsive. Very flexible. Sounds good, but listen closely and you'll hear the trap. Easy, responsive, flexible. Useful words when attached to strength. Dangerous words when they become substitutes for stature. What you want is different. Clear, decisive, trusted, respected, chosen. Those words don't come from niceness alone. They come from a man whose behavior tells the truth his mouth doesn't need to repeat. I know what this is worth. I know what kind of fit works. And I do not collapse just because you hesitate. There's a kind of relief that comes when you finally stop chasing every maybe. The inbox becomes quieter in your mind. A delayed reply no longer feels like a referendum on your value. A prospect looking elsewhere doesn't automatically trigger the old panic. Someone asking for just one more thing becomes information, not pressure. You stop trying to force outcomes and start reading people with colder accuracy. That accuracy is a form of mercy toward yourself, because now you can see the whole board. You can spot the prospect who wants free consulting disguised as curiosity. You can spot the buyer who loves brainstorming more than deciding. You can spot the client who says they want premium work but negotiates like they're buying cables online.
You can spot the flattering manipulator, the vague opportunist, the chronic browser, the person who wants to feel powerful by making professionals chase. Before, you called these confusing situations. Now, you call them what they are: misaligned power plays. Machiavelli would tell you that once you can name a pattern, you are far less likely to become its victim. Men stay trapped because they moralize what should be analyzed. They say, I just want to be a good person. Fine, be one. But goodness without discernment turns into tribute paid to stronger personalities. A man should be kind. He should not be available for consumption. Read that again with your own life in mind.
How often have you made yourself consumable just to keep the interaction alive? How often have you offered your insight, your speed, your emotional composure, your extra effort, your late-night attention, all before the other side proved they were serious? You thought you were demonstrating value. Sometimes you were just lowering the cost of taking from you. That realization should sting a little. Good. It means you're finally looking directly at the wound instead of decorating it with professionalism. Now imagine a different version of the same conversation. Same client, same budget tension, same market. But this time the man on your side is not trying to be liked into the deal. He enters with warmth, yes, but also form. He answers cleanly. He does not flood the room with unnecessary proof. When vague interest appears, he asks sharper questions instead of giving broader access. When a weak objection lands, he does not scramble to rescue the sale. He pauses, he considers. He lets the other person feel that he is evaluating them too. Suddenly the room is different. The client starts explaining themselves more. Their tone becomes less casual. They stop tossing out lazy requests because they no longer feel they're dealing with a man who will trade structure for approval.
The whole atmosphere changes, not because he became aggressive, but because he stopped volunteering his spine. That is power in the modern sense. Calm, selective, controlled. The opposite of the over-eager man who keeps mistaking motion for leverage. And yes, there is risk in this shift. You will lose some people faster. Some prospects will disappear the moment you stop making extraction easy. Some clients will reveal that they never wanted a serious partner, only a compliant one. Some conversations will die in the exact place where you used to overperform to keep them alive. Let them die. A weak man hears that and fears loss. A stronger man hears it and recognizes filtration. You were never supposed to close everyone. You were supposed to stop being available to anyone. That changes your entire identity. Now, when someone goes quiet, you notice without unraveling. When someone wants to compare options, you let them. When someone presses on your rate without understanding your thinking, you do not begin a desperate educational campaign to justify your existence. You remain clear. And that clarity has teeth because it comes from self-command, not performance. There will still be moments where the old pattern tries to pull you back. You'll feel it when the high-value lead takes too long to respond. You'll feel it when the tempting brand asks for a little extra before signing. You'll feel it when money is tight and the urge to bend starts whispering that this one exception is harmless. That whisper is dangerous because it always sounds reasonable in the moment. It never says, betray yourself. It says, just be smart, just be nice, just keep the door open. But every man has to decide which door matters more, the one in front of him or the one inside him. Because each time you abandon your own read to keep someone interested, you teach yourself that survival requires self-erasure. Each time you hold form instead, even with a shaking stomach, you teach yourself something else. I can lose an outcome without losing myself. That lesson is worth more than a client. It changes how you speak to women, how you deal with bosses, how you answer family pressure, how you handle friends who take too much space, how you carry silence, how you walk into rooms where you used to overcompensate. The man who no longer bargains against himself becomes difficult to casually diminish. And that is the deeper Machiavellian truth under all of this. Power is not merely what you can take. It is what others believe they cannot casually take from you. Your time, your attention, your standards, your composure, your willingness. Once those things stop feeling public,
people begin to treat you as a man with a center. You won't need to announce it. In fact, the moment you feel the urge to announce it, you're already drifting. Real command is visible in restraint, in timing, in the refusal to over-explain, in the ability to let a conversation end without chasing the last word back into the room. That is why the opening truth matters so much now. You thought being nice would win clients, but niceness without structure only made you easier to sample while they kept looking elsewhere. It made you the safe option to delay, the generous option to extract from, the pleasant option to compare, the stable little backup plan waiting politely in someone else's inbox. That role feels clean on the surface. Underneath, it is humiliation with calendar invites. No more. Not because the world will suddenly become fair. It won't. Not because every client will respect you. They won't. But because the man who understands hierarchy, perception, and his own emotional leakage becomes far harder to use without committing. He stops radiating availability and starts radiating standard. He stops filling every silence with proof and starts letting other people reveal themselves inside the silence.
He stops worshipping interest and starts watching for seriousness. That is where the shift becomes irreversible. Now, when the message comes in, we're still exploring options. You don't spiral. You read it for what it is. Now, when someone asks for more before giving enough, you don't rush to please. You read it for what it is. Now, when a room feels off, you don't smile your way through the discomfort just to look professional. You read it for what it is. And once you can read it, you can stop submitting to it. That is how the overlooked man becomes the hard-to-dismiss man. Not by becoming louder, meaner, or faker, by becoming less available for disrespect disguised as opportunity. By understanding, the way Machiavelli did, that human beings often follow the frame before they evaluate the content. By mastering the subtle politics of distance, value, and emotional steadiness. By refusing to let hunger write his posture. So come back to the opening line. In a few minutes, you are going to understand why being nice wasn't winning you clients. Now you know. It wasn't because kindness is weak. It was because your kindness arrived without a wall, without consequence, without weight. And in the marketplace, anything offered without weight gets handled like it can be replaced. The men who rise are not always the most talented. Often they are simply the men who stopped leaking need in every room. The men who stopped translating their worth into apology. The men who learned to let interest come closer before opening the gates. They are not chosen because they beg better. They are chosen because losing them starts to feel expensive. Become that expensive.